Good morning, YouTube. My friend wants me to go to the news station and start telling my life story, or at least the last year. But I figured they probably wouldn't let me get on the air and actually say everything I wanted to say, so might as well say it here. Welcome to Random Rant number 2. Probably left a couple other ones. So the last year has been a little rough. I had like 3 or 4 surgeries this year. Brain surgery, not something I'd recommend to do too often. I haven't worked since July. I have run into a lot of weird luck. You know, it I guess started in January, like the year should. You know, they switched my work sites, and I lost all of my benefits that I bought into. And so when I did end up in the hospital, I got no disability payout because they thought the union would cover it. But the union thought they would cover it. And you're trying to get people to, left hand figure out what the right hand's doing, and no one's really communicating. And so you're SOL. When I went on leave, medical leave, they as in the people that worked with a certain department, were like, it's the same thing as standard leave, but it's not. Medical's different. It gives you 6 months of medical coverage. Standard gives you 30 days of medical coverage. So they shut off my medical benefits. And I ended up on state benefits. And I ended up in the hospital for 2-3 months out of the year. Moved into a new, bright and new, hopeful, shiny apartment. My neighbor ended up being kind of nuts and came upstairs with a shotgun. Probably more than one. I called the cops on him like a good 3 times. I moved in 10 days, threw all my stuff into storage and started living at Airbnbs, and my brain started leaking, literally out of my right nostril. And after house sitting for a friend who was in Bulgaria, I had to jump into the ER and get treated and checked, and have kind of been jumping ever since. So I can't really say I'm homeless. Technically I'm unhomeless, and I've been unhomeless successfully for probably close to a decade at this point. I don't think I've had an actual home since I left my childhood home like almost 20 years ago. Can't tell because of my wonderful youthful appearance, but I am pushing 40. I look a lot younger, act a lot younger than a lot of people expect of that age bracket. I think it's because, moisturize every day. Eat cucumber. Camera angles help too. Not that I'm great at the camera angle thing, but, I'm trying here. So, after falling into the hospital for a couple months and getting brain surgery, which my hair is finally growing back from, can't even really see the scar, which is good, waiting for that to fill in. I ended up on state assistance because I had no income. And friends and family can only help but so much because they have a life and they have a story. Everyone's life is a story, and you should tell it because it's gonna help somebody. So here goes nothing. I sound smart. I appear intelligent and tried to actually make that happen on paper. But because I am disabled, even though I'm not on paper as disabled, it's been very difficult trying to get degrees, bachelor's, even associates. I went to school, but didn't get to complete it because I kept ending up in the hospital over the years. I think it's like close to a world record or something right now. I don't know. I don't really know where to start. So I guess back to this year. Airbnbs, and ended up with an apartment through the help of my brother, with my landlord, who allowed me to heal and recover there without paying rent for close to 2 months. And being on state assistance, I was paying him through state assistance, but they cut things off illegally, even though they kind of said it was legal, but it wasn't. Turned in all my paperwork, did everything I was supposed to do, had a pending disability case, and they shut off my TDEP. And because someone didn't read the fine print, didn't get the memo, didn't hit a button, and I didn't find out until December. And, Christmas season, and you call and you start making phone calls and you start trying to correct these problems, and they're like, oh, you should file an appeal, but it takes 3 months. I don't have 3 months. I got like 20 days, or I'm going to be homeless. And it was just a couple $100, but that last $200 bridged a gap that would have prevented, certain homelessness. Did I mention I was on oxygen? Yeah, because of the last surgery. I ended up with blood clots in my lungs and on oxygen, and currently trying to get off of oxygen, even though it's like 2 months early. They gave me 3 to 6 months, and it's been about 4 at this point, and I still have my tanks with me, but only excessive, or not excessive, movement and talking is when I kind of need them. I should probably be wearing it right now as much as I flap my gums, but I don't really want to. I want to get stronger. I want to get back to functioning without being hooked up to a tank like I'm a cyborg, which technically I guess I am. Get some extra factory parts in there, and it is 2020. About time some cyborgs were hanging around. I have a cranial implant in this lovely, you know, recently grown in spot. I have a form of hydrocephalus called pseudotumor cerebri. I was diagnosed when I was 23. If they had caught it sooner, that would probably explain a lot more of my odd teenage years. But it wasn't until I went blind. And then I went blind again. And then I had a surgery about 12 years ago. And that part I thought would last forever, but apparently everything has a shelf life, and it failed for whatever reason, and I had to get it replaced. And trying to get it replaced, you ran into doctors that are like, no, we don't want to do that. We want to give you some new ones. I don't need any more valves or part. I don't need them tapping into my spine. I already got one. They just need to, knock another one in there, take one out, plug one in. We're good. I was held in a hospital against my will for 2 weeks. They told me that there was a chance I would fall into a coma if I left with a brain leak, because I was leaking about half a cup of brain fluid every night for weeks, and tried to get them to transfer me to the lovely Johns Hopkins campus and facilities for neurosurgery. And my brother stepped in and managed to get that done with threatening a malfeasance lawsuit for their conduct, because they were pretty much holding me and waiting for me to fall into a coma so they could give me a surgery I did not consent to. But I avoided that with the help of my lovely brother, and am recovering from those surgeries now. So I had the original surgery, then I needed a revision because they put the tubes. I have a previous tube, which calcified and they couldn't remove most of it, which they tried to, and got a lot of it out, but they put it in a weird space and it went wrong, and they had to switch it and put it back. And so after that second, third, somewhere in their surgery, I ended up with blood clots that traveled to my lungs, and apparently it was like a minefield, like 23, and they were stuck there for the last 4 months now, which is why I'm wanting oxygen and blood thinners, like Coumadin, which apparently is very birth defecty, and since I am not in menopause yet, they're having a conference on whether or not to switch that to something less birth defecty, so, don't have the threat of mutant children. But since I'm pushing 40, I probably only got a good 10 years left before that is a no-go endeavor. Yeah. I was considering going to the news to rat out the state services and their misconduct for shutting off my case and not allowing that last $200, which would have prevented the loss of my home in December. I called like everybody. I Googled numbers and just started leaving emails and leaving messages, and they call you back and they hear your story and they don't really want to step into that, handle that, don't know how to address that, and they're like, we're going to pass you along. And they send you to another person who sends you to a person that sends you to a person because they think they're going to fix it, but they don't actually check thoroughly, and it doesn't really help, and then you end up right back where you started at square one, which is kind of what happened to me. And then they're like, Oh, you should just fill out all new paperwork. But I don't have a primary care physician or doctor, and 500 forms require a doctor, and they only give you 30 days. And at the time, it was a month and a half until my doctor's appointment. So that was like a lost advice. You know, there's no point in starting something if you know the end result's not going to be in your favor. Well, maybe there is a point. Always start something. Don't be afraid to start something. So, I didn't refile for a new case because I was trying to get them to reopen my old one because they shouldn't have shut it down in the first place. Because I think it's illegal in the state of Maryland to shut down TDEP if you have pending disability, which I did, or if you turned in all your paperwork, which I did. And they call back like, but we didn't see that. Oh, this is your fault then. And it does just, it's too much. Let you keep trying and you keep going through it and you keep going forward and seeing where it leads you. So that's how my 2019 ended, and now it's 2020, and I am Barbara Walters, and this is 2020. I'm kind of happy. It's a new year. I try to stay as happy as possible. That might be another explanation for my youthful appearance. I'd love to see what I look like when I'm pushing 50. You know. For more installments of the story, please stay tuned. Because I've had 40 years, so at least 40 of these are going to go up. Maybe more. Need a little more explaining sometimes.